All right, on to Noah's Ark and the reason for the flood. In the book of Genesis, for example, why in the world was Noah chosen by God um, to survive the flood through the ark? Well, of course, he was a righteous man, but that wasn't the main reason. He was perfect in his generations, and that was the most critical part of why Noah was chosen, because up until that time, there were men. Um, this refers back to the Nephilim and to giants in the earth. There were men who practiced a form of eugenics in an attempt to become gods, basically. And this practice was to breed with hundreds of their successive generations of progeny to try and create the perfect man, or so they thought was the perfect man, and immortality. They were trying to attain immortality. Although these men and women, there were women too, um, many of them had either been born or created at the same time that Adam was created. And they lived literally for thousands of years, all the way up until the flood took them. But prior to that, their practice of eugenics threatened to exterminate mankind by damaging the genome. Basically, it was the genes. When you interbreed, it damages the gene pool, and that was what was happening at the time of as time progressed, mankind's extinction became in jeopardy. And God chose Noah, who was perfect in his generations, and that was the primary reason that he was chosen, to build an ark and survive a worldwide catastrophe that would wipe out most of mankind. And it wasn't to extinguish mankind, it was to actually save the human genome. And this is not commonly known. So this essentially debunks the theory of evolution, because not only were there giants in the earth, but the fossil record shows that there were stunted and warped human beings as well, because the pendulum swings both ways when the human genome is damaged. Not only can you produce giants, but you can also produce stunted dwarfs, and many other kinds of human physical deviations. And among these deviations were what science commonly calls Neanderthals, which science assumes that Neanderthals were precursors to modern man, but that's not the case. They were an offshoot of this horrible practice by these near immortal men and women, and they were outcasts from that particular civilization. So evolution is basically debunked by the flood. If one understands what actually happened. And another thing that's easily explained and interpolated from the story of the flood is the Roman gods, the humanistic gods of the Greeks, the Phoenicians, the Egyptians, all these humanistic gods of these post-Diluvian civilizations came from tales of these near immortal beings who lived and reigned prior to the flood. For example, Zeus may have been an actual person who lived prior to the flood. He was a man. He might have lived for 2,500 years, but he was no god. So there's quite a bit more to the tale of Noah's flood, the story of Noah's flood, than what most people think. It wasn't to wipe out humanity. It was actually to save humanity from early extinction. And after the flood, it's stated quite clear in the scriptures that man's lifespan was reduced to no more than 120 years. And that's the reason, because no longer can any person produce children, breed with them, produce children, breed with them, produce children, breed with them, for hundreds of generations, and in an attempt to either create giants or make immortality permanent, or to actually become gods, in some way or fashion. But that's not what happened, and that's the entire reason for the flood and for Noah surviving it.